Hi guys, welcome back on this beautiful day. This is Dee from Lunar Eclipse Tarot and Astrology, and I just wanted to share this moment I had recently sitting out here. This is one of my favorite places in the world, sitting on my back porch, just being able to relax after a long day of work and really just sit down and think. I love being outside. And so I was sitting out here the other day, and I thought of a question. It was kind of an odd question, and it does have a simple answer, but upon thinking further about it and digging deeper into it, I feel like I kind of came full circle with some concepts, and I wanted to share that with you all today. So I was sitting out here and I'm watching all the little animals go and do their thing, and I'm watching this squirrel, and he's burying acorns. I'm like, why do squirrels bury acorns? Super simple answer would be, well, they are small animals, they're mammals, they eat nuts, an acorn is a nut. So it's burying the acorn to have a stash to access later on, and to hide it, to prevent different predators from getting to it. All that makes perfect sense, but it's such a simple answer to this question, Random thing that I looked up, the germination depth, or the ideal depth for an acorn to be buried in order for it to grow into a fully mature tree, is between 1 to 2 inches. Now you think of a squirrel, tiny little thing, tiny little hands. They're going to be digging, but they're not going too deep, right? They would be falling right in that shallow 1 to 2 inches depth. And that is perfect, literally the perfect range for the acorn to grow into that mature tree. And so I thought that was so interesting because both of these organisms are acting in their own accord, The squirrel is doing this for self-preservation. It's trying to store food so that it can eat. And the acorn is attempting to reproduce into a mature tree. And so while they have their two separate own agendas, they can't help but cross paths, because if you notice, and trying to satisfy their own needs, they're also mutually helping the other. So the squirrel, in trying to get its food, it's also helping the acorns reproduce by burying at that perfect depth. And then the acorn, while just trying to reproduce, is also helping to feed the squirrel by, providing this food and this nutrients to it. And so you see so many mutualistic relationships taking place like this all over the place, not just in the forest, but multiple ecosystems, how we all depend on one another, and we're all really connected on multiple levels. And so one thing that I love doing is coming out here and just really looking at the forest. Really take time to look at it, to take it in. You start to see things, you start to notice things. Like this tree here in the middle, right? This tree, when you look at it, of course you can see the tree. Yeah, it has leaves, it's going upwards, it's got a trunk. But you look closer and you see that this tree, it has roots going underground to help put nutrients back into the soil. It's helping to root other plants. It's creating a space for other small organisms to burrow in and underneath it. What else is this tree doing? This tree, if you look behind it, there's depth that goes into the forest. It's not just a two-dimensional thing. This thing stretches on with more of these mutualistic relationships. You have different ivies and different plants competing and climbing on each other in order to fight for nutrients. And they're all combining to create this one thing that we look at and call the forest. So when you're looking at one thing, the forest, you're actually looking at many things together to create this one image that we have. And I think it's so beautiful because all of these things, they create such a perfect balance. You have a wide range of emotions. In this one forest, you have miracles such as death taking place. Miracles such as birth taking place. You have different love and different adventures, different happiness. You have a lot of peace that's here, but at the same time, you also have death, destruction, rebirth. You have all of these tragic tales and all of these beautiful tales and all of this coming together, and it creates a net zero effect. It's not really swaying one way or the other, it just is. It's just being the forest. And so it encompasses these yin and these yang principles, bringing them together to create this one being. And without human intervention, this forest would continue to exist this way, until it couldn't anymore. And so looking at that, even looking with a different point of view, looking again at this tree centering here in the middle, if we were to somehow zoom into this tree, if we have the eyes to see, what we would first notice, is like the different tissues of the tree. We'll notice the leaves exchanging energy from the sun for energy to be used in sugars. We'll see the different phloem and xylem pushing nutrients throughout the plant. And then we can zoom in even further, and we'll see the cells, and we'll see things happening on a cellular process. We would see even beyond that, the DNA, the genetic coding, kind of like the code in the Matrix. If you remember all the ones and the zeros, that's literally what is the code to allow this plant, this one specific plant, to exist right here at this one specific time. That is that plant's unique DNA code. You would start to see molecules interchanging. At this point, molecules would become basically indiscriminate upon each other. You can even go in further than that and continue zooming in, and then you'll reach atoms, and then you'll reach subatomic particles, and then you can even zoom in further from that. And all of that is existing right now as we speak, and as we look at this one tree. Now, take it on the opposite end. Let's take this one tree, and let's zoom out now, right? And so this tree, as we see, is part of an ecosystem. But this ecosystem is also part of this landmass. This landmass in this area is part of this whole continent. This continent is part of this planet we live on, which is called Earth. Earth is part of our solar system. We have several other planets. We have a sun, we have a star. And then all of this is taking place within our galaxy, the Milky Way. And then our galaxy is holding space in the universe, and then the universe can expand to the multiverse, and it just goes infinitely large and infinitely small. And all of that we got from focusing consciously right here on this tree. Now, obviously, we can't see all of this all the time, but I think that's a very interesting concept, and why it's so important to hold space where you are and to be at peace with who you are, because you are so many things at once. All of these things existing together are in a perfect balance, in that perfect harmony, like the forest. And the beautiful thing about it is the only difference between those things is perspective. Whether you see things from your eyes or from another's eyes, or maybe from something that doesn't have eyes at all, it's all one universe, one being that's just broken up into little pieces so that it can experience itself on those levels. I believe knowledge is infinite, and part of that is because of the different dimensions of existence in which things can exist on. But let's bring this back down to the 3D, to where we live as humans, as people. Where do we fit into all of this, right? So, humans, what separates us from the rest of the animal kingdom primarily is our developed prefrontal cortex, our thought ability, our ability to consciously think, to hold patterns, to recognize patterns, our reward and our discipline system. We have the ability to solve complex issues, and all of that's going on right here. The ability to use tools, ability to really use our minds. I think that is something that's very unique and very beautiful about us. If knowledge is infinite and is forever growing and expanding, because we're constantly creating new things, constantly experiencing new perspectives, all of that, maybe not all of it, but a good portion of it you can hold here in our minds. Think of all the new things that humans have created. Different inventions we've created, different concepts we've acknowledged or created. We are creators in essence. And so these things that are man-made actually would not just naturally exist in the universe if it was doing its own thing, It required us as humans in this form to be born, to take all of this and to experience it, and then to create more, and to put new thought patterns into the world, and to shift frequencies and vibrations in our own different ways. And so I think that's very interesting, because we are infinitely powerful. It's so easy to be like, well, humans were small, and a small planet, and everything's small. And you can get your mind to think in such an insignificant scale, but again, it's all perspective. In that same voice, you're also infinitely powerful, You think about what we are made out of, these bodies that we have. All of the molecules and atoms and everything that we were talking about in this tree also exists in you, you know? And all of these things that build you came from Gaia. It's not like whenever a new baby is born, a comet falls from the sky and here goes John. No, how it works is all of the molecules that have been on this planet just continue to be recycled, and through whatever type of arrangement created you through your own genetic code, you know? It just, your DNA is what dictates what molecules get used and which ones don't. And then we also have other beings living in us. You know, we have other bacteria that live in and on our bodies and inside of our bodies. We have small organisms that reside with us. So you yourself as a person, you're not just you. Your creation that's held together to create this constancy, this consistency that is you. Mainly what is you, what separates you as a person from just these different molecules together, is your consciousness. And so if you think even the molecules that create you that came from Gaia or the earth itself eventually came from dead star matter. Stars exploding and compounding on each other to create these new elements spreading out into the universe, and then all of this gravity somehow came together to create this one planet, and then from this planet we are being born. You know, and we hold so much of this conscious energy of the universe. It's, how can we not be powerful, you know? For example, humans are one of the main things that can actually defy nature and go against the laws of nature. Think about how this planet naturally exists, for instance. Now think of concepts such as capitalism, money, greed, war. Anything that you can think of that nature is man-made. That does not naturally exist like that. We, as being born as man, put that into the universe and incorporated it into our existence here on this planet. And so, really, the earth never lost its magic. What happened is we humans fell out of touch. We started building these structures and separating ourselves and wanting, a lot of it has to do with our ego, you know. Being the conscious creatures that we are, of course, we want to automatically place ourselves above different animals and different organisms and say, oh, we're the biggest, baddest to ever do it. You know, I think we're working on that as a species. But, you know, if you really want to get back in touch with that power, all it takes is just really looking at the forest, just knowing yourself by seeing yourself in everything else, not just in people who are like you. When you hear the concept of to love thy neighbor, who is your neighbor? You know, is it the person who has your same exact beliefs that's living right next to you? No, your neighbor's not just people on the same street as you, or even in the same country. Your neighbor is everything, because you're all sharing space, and you all energetically interact with each other, whether you realize that on a conscious level or not. And so what I'm doing right now in this phase of my journey is really taking the time to see, to appreciate, to learn about myself through other things as well. And I think that's a really great start in order to find this place of peace. I find myself so much more relaxed lately, so much more at peace no matter what's going on. And just being in charge of your own energy. And there's so much of it that is available to us here on this planet. It would be crazy not to look. Well, I hope that this talk was inspirational for you all, or maybe it helped answer some questions, or maybe just gave you some food for thought. But I appreciate you sticking through. Alright guys, time for a new lunar forecast. Alright, so today is Thursday, July 13th, and right now we're still going through Cancer season, so there's going to be a lot of connection with water and emotional energy that's just typically happening at this point in time. Specifically today though, it's enhanced because the moon is actually moving into Pisces. If you remember, we just had this full moon, this super transformative energy that was coming around us. And now the moon transitioning into the water sign of Pisces, it's also conjoining or coming into alignment with Neptune. And so there's going to be a ton of spiritual expansion over the next couple of days. A lot of sensitivity, especially concerning spiritual matters, a lot of sensitivity to different energies and such. Because water, with its flowing and ebbing, it can tap into these things and it can feel these things. There's going to be a great chance for creative endeavors. If you're looking for some inspiration, a chance to expand your imagination, to connect with other people. A really great time for strengthening bonds, to get closer to people, because we're not just focusing right now on the third dimension. We're able to connect to something deeper with this alignment. Now on the 15th, we're going to transition the moon into Aries, which is the first sign of the zodiac. It is cardinal fire, and it comes with a lot of new and fresh packed energy. Another beautiful thing about this moon transition is now the moon is going to be conjoining with Uranus, or aligning with Uranus. Uranus is a great planet for innovation, for open-mindedness. It's a genius planet. It's super quick processing. It's powerful. And so the moon mostly governing your heart, and then Uranus governing your head. You're going to be able to bring those two together with that fresh energy and be able to maybe start on some new projects. If there's something you've been waiting to go ahead and get started on, you'll have a lot of energy backing you during this time. And then we're going to carry that out until the 17th, when we transition into our Taurus moon, which the moon is naturally exalted in Taurus, meaning Taurus is naturally already connected to the moon. Some things that would be a great time some great things to pay attention to during this time. It's a great time for self-interest and self-protection. It's a great time to get more practical. Taurus being the first earth sign of the zodiac, it's all about grounding, that initial planting, and really getting your roots into the ground. It's a great time to start an activity that will eventually yield solid results. And it's also a great time to smell the roses, while we have all this grounding energy. Just making sure that we're taking time to appreciate ourselves, to love ourselves, and to be really at peace. And then we're going to follow this out for the next few days. And then finally, on next Thursday, on July the 20th, we're going to transition into a Gemini moon. Gemini moon is really great for communication. It's really great for mental stimulation, forming connections. Gemini is an air quality. When you think where else you see air, our heart chakras, which is the center of your heart, of your chakra system, its element is also air. And so air, although it often deals with mental aspects, it also deals with our ability to connect with each other, the harmony that we have with each other. And Gemini is going to have a great period, or this Gemini moon is going to be a great period for affection, for playfulness, especially with it conjoining with Venus, which is the planet of love, it's the planet of our affections, of our aesthetics, And so it's just a really great time, after all of this transformation we've been going through, to come back and branch out to other people, and to keep that lightheartedness, but to also remain curious and remain interested in the world, and to carry our endeavors into the next phase. Well, guys, I hope this forecast has been enjoyable for you, and I hope that you're able to take some of these lessons and really enjoy this week. Good luck to you all in all of your endeavors, and I will see you 7 days from now.